Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Gerard Black in the Philippines with the truth. You know, I get up in the morning now and I watch my daughter's videos, Gia Goodrich, and boy, does she give a lot of good information. My brother told me, he says, I can see where she got her gift of gab from. That means her motor mouth from, But I can't take all the credit for that. Her mother was also a blah 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 kind of person. I just recently posted a video about brothers being brothers, Black Americans being Black Americans, and I really feel like I did a disservice to you because there are other topics that I wanted to touch on with us, but I didn't realize I didn't touch on them until I watched the video. So we're getting back together here in about another week or so, and we're going to dive into more deeply about what it's like being Black in the Philippines with the truth. So look forward to those videos. You know, um, I've done a lot of things in my life, and I'm often blessed. And I say time and time again that I am blessed to have come as far as I have, and to have done what I've done and gotten out of what I've gotten out of.
Come on! I can't make
To be able to be where I am today.
Hated man! Top of the world!
Sometimes a few of my comments were about the music. From the last video I did, Mom's birthday party, I think it was, and I would love to post more music. Uh, you know, that I think are uh, not only my favorites, but you know, carry strong messages because there's message in the music. I often say that I feel very blessed to be one of part of the last generations to have seen all five original Temptations perform. You know, I've hung out with Bobby Womack. I fish with Charlie Wilson in Los Angeles with his brothers because where they lived, they had a lake there, and those boys, being from where they're from, they love to fish. So it was also their little getaway. um, yeah. I've you know even in the rap genre, I've had an opportunity to like be a part of the game's first project coming out project, the game documentary or whatever. And I was there. Um, I have just been. I remember being chased around, the apartment by Sylvester, you know, or trying to be pulled into bed by Kenny Moore, who was Tina Turner's piano player. I remember shunning Shaka Khan, who asked me to come with her. Mostly because I didn't know it was Shaka Khan till I saw the concert, and when I saw it was her who was asking me to come with her, I walked out of the concert. I just couldn't take it. I found myself in situations that if I had full, I remember hanging out and partying with I think Vernon White from Earth, Wind and Fire and Hollywood Hills. There are just been a number of situations that I've been in, rather with the help of my camera or with the help of, my being a pharmacist, that has allowed me to really be in places that I would not. I remember being at the pre-Grammy party that was hosted by Bonnie Hilton Sweeney. She was the founder of the pre-Grammy party, and I haven't spoken about her in a long time, but she was a publicist at Playboy. She was also the manager for The Godfather Soul, Mr. James Brown, and I met her at a show called We Love Rock and Roll, which was hosted by Howard Hessman. It had the Temptations, had Frankie Valli, had Jefferson Starship. It had Chuck Berry. It had Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. It just had a number of acts that were paying tribute to rock and roll. And I remember being a part of that whole atmosphere, of being part of it. I was walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and I saw on the marquee it says, we love rock and roll, and this is during the daytime, so I was always able to get past security. So I was able to walk past security, and I was in this big auditorium where they were rehearsing, and I always look for someone, to sit someone who I can latch on to, that if I just stay with them, who had a legitimate purpose for being there, over a period of time, the people there, or the people that be, would see me or identify me as someone who should be there. So I saw this woman sitting there, and I walked up to her and introduced myself. I said, "Hi, my name is Gerard." She said, "Hi, my name is Vonnie Hill, sweetie." I said, "Oh, how are you?" I like this. I'm a photographer. She said, "Oh, would you like to be my photographer?" I said, "Yeah." She said, she says, "Well, I'm Mr. Brown's manager. Go back there and take pictures of him. And if anyone asks you, just tell them that I sent you." So I said, "Okay." So, I walk back there, and I'm in the dressing room of the Godfather of Soul, Mr. James Brown, while he's getting dressed. He's sitting in a chair trying to put on his James Brown boots, and he's putting them on. And I told him, "Vonnie, send me to take pictures." He says, "Okay." He says, "Never take a picture of me smoking a cigarette." And I said, "Yes, Mr. Brown." And it killed me when he passed away, and they did that documentary about him. And in that documentary, there was one still photo of him smoking a cigarette. And it hurt me to my core, because I said, how can the powers that be not know that this was one thing that he did not want to ever have projected of him, smoking a cigarette. So it actually brought a tear to my eye how they had disrespected him by doing that. So anyway, I photographed him, and now I'm photographing the Temptations, and I got some great shots of Melvin Franklin. I got the whole crew. I got pictures of them, and so I ended up latching on to Bonnie. And Bonnie at this time was in her second year of doing the pre-Grammy party. Now, the pre-Grammy party was a party that was put together by Bonnie, because at that time, Clyde Davis, most of you know Clyde Davis, he is the music Spengali for acts, and I think he's with Sony Records, or I forgot what label he is, but Clyde Davis was the man. He was the only one who was really having a legitimate Grammy party, because, Clyde Davis was holding a Grammy party. That's where all the acts, all the white acts, white acts would be. So it excluded a lot of black artists who had also have accomplished a lot, but just weren't able to attend, or wasn't able to have a place to go to celebrate their own accomplishments. So Earth, Wind, and Fire at this time were the powerhouse in music. They were, they never, at this time, whenever a black group or black artist got a Grammy, they had to pre-record their acceptance speech. And Earth, Wind, and Fire just refused. This is how the story was told to me by Bonnie. That they refused to pre-record and accept the speech. Therefore, in the early days of Earth, Wind, and Fire, you don't see them receiving their Grammys, because they wouldn't do a pre-recorded acceptance speech. And it wasn't until Michael Jackson had kicked in the door at MTV, where they just could no longer not play black music. And once this happened, then the Grammys ultimately changed the procedure of giving out Grammys, and allowed black artists to appear live and receive their Grammys. So that's another reason to thank Michael Jackson. So at this time, Bonnie had decided to have a place where blacks could go each year to celebrate their own accomplishments, and achievements, even in the communities for blacks. This is why she should be in the history books. And she founded the pre-Grammy party. you know, and each year, you know, she did it each year in the month of February. That was when the Grammys were on, and it was Black History Month, and she held it on the last Sunday of the month, wherever it was, in New York or Los Angeles or wherever. And it morphed into something huge. It morphed into something, it was the place to be. Sure, Clyde had Clyde Davis, but the Jacksons were there. The Godfather Soul, Mr. James Brown, because it later turned into the James Brown Truth Awards, where each year a recipient will get the award for the Godfather Soul. And Joe Jackson always showcased his his latest girl group band because that was his thing. He was always showcasing or working with girl groups. And, I can see why. So he always had a group there. Ali Woodson, who was the lead singer of the Temptations. He was like a permanent fixture. There were times when he wouldn't come, but when he did, he would stop the show. Ali Woodson would of course everybody's having a great time, and he would get on stage and he just would not get off. He just loved to sing. Ali Woodson was fantastic. And there was one year when Charlie Wilson was there, because Charlie Wilson was getting the award. And so it was like a battle between the lead singers, because Charlie Wilson was the lead singer for the Gap Band. And then you had Ali Woodson. And both of them are singing, and they're like having a battle. Like this. Ali Woodson blew him away. We'll have to say this, Ali blew him away. Sorry, Uncle Charlie. That's just the truth. That's just the fact of things. But I have to be honest to Charlie Wilson. And that was, he had this big diamond. He had a big diamond earring in his ear. I can't remember if he had both of them, but I know he had it in one ear, and it fell. And you could see that in spite of him singing, his mind was on where that diamond go. So you can honestly say that he was a little preoccupied when he was singing. So, but outside of that, Charlie Wilson, Ali Woodson, blew Charlie Wilson away. There was just a number of acts, who would come and perform. I remember that there was one guy who I would sit, at the table about 3 years, of course, that's where I would be. And this one guy sat there, and he had a certain posture when he sat down in a chair. So, you can always, it stood out to me that I knew who that was. I never knew his name, never knew who he was, and it was years later that I found out that it was Ron Tyson. It was Ron Tyson of the Temptations. I had been sitting hanging out with Ron Tyson with the Temptations and didn't even know he was a Temptation. And it just boggles my mind how I never knew the background story of a lot of these people who I was with. So anyway, that's how the pre-Grammy party came about. Calamita Pittman, who now in the month of October, she's hosting the breast cancer awareness celebration, which is the closest thing you can get to one of Bonnie's event, because the attendees are virtually the same ones that will go to Bonnie's event. And she was married to Jerry Pittman, who was the first black company limousine owner in Los Angeles. And and also Calamita was the first rapping school teacher And both of them had a song, early success with a song called Rosebud. So if you happen to have nothing to do and want to browse the internet, look at Rosebud by Calamita and Jerry Pittman. So, um, but anyway, the pre-Grammy party uh, blew up into something beautiful, and I was the I was a personal photographer, and Janae Dubois, who was there from Good Times, she was she was also a fixture at the pre-Grammy party, and there were a number of others. April Sutton, you may know she was the first video DJ, or the first DJ, or first journalist on BET. She also ended up in Journalist Hall of Fame for her accomplishments, for what she's done in the area of broadcasting and journalism. She was the host. And there, there were. I'm starting to chuckle because I really don't want to mention his name because because of him. You know, some of the things that happened to me was because of him. Not being honest with me. So anyway, that was the pre-Grammy party. And I remember one year when we were having a pre-Grammy party, and I was on the phone with Ollie Woodson, and he was flying in, and I had to make sure a car picked him up and brought him to the event and what have you. And Bonnie had gotten a call from the hotel, and the hotel management says, "We're sorry, but we have to cancel your event." This is on the day of the event. You understand what I'm saying? On the day of the event, they called her and told her that they can no longer host her pre-Grammy party, that she has to move it. And within a matter of hours, she moved that whole event to a Shriners, hall or something like this. And it was the most, it was one of the most, to me, it was amazing how she was able to have that type of tenacity, that type of wherewithal to be able to do that in a matter of hours, so that all her guests could arrive there and be there. Now, the reason that they had to cancel her event is because Little Bow Wow's production company, when Little Bow Wow was doing his movie, took over the whole hotel. And because they took over the whole hotel, she had to move her event. I remember seeing one of the judges who I watched on TV, one of the courtroom judges, and I said, "Ooh, I know who you are. You're Judge Judy." And she says, "No, I'm Judge Maybelline. Judge Judy is the white one." And I said, "Oh my God, you're talking about someone being embarrassed." I was like stone cold embarrassed. But again, I found myself in situations around people, who I should have known but didn't know. Or people who I watched on TV. I was going on that. People who I recognize when I'm watching TV, or who are coming up, and see those people I know, but other people who you know who uh, should have had more um, knowledge of them, but I didn't. I remember hanging out with Lou Rawls, which was kind of cool. He was backstage. It was just him and I, and he was waiting to go on stage, and to accept his award. And I, it's the moment I had with Lou Rawls. So, I've been blessed. I guess
I'm blessed.
this was the point thing that I wanted to say, and being the person, not only was Bonnie's personal photographer. But when I went to my trials and tribulations with drugs and moving too fast, and I ended up doing my time and coming out, and I called Bonnie, and I said, "Hi, Bonnie." All she said was, "Gerard, welcome back." And I said, "Wow." It wasn't where you been or what you did or whatever it was. It was all just welcome back, just welcome back. and we got right to work. So I became the East Coast representative of the Godfather. So Mr. James Brown's magazine called The Truth. So and I would have artists or celebrities holding his magazine on the East Coast on the back, that would appear on the back of his magazine. That was a promotional magazine that he would use to hand out at venues or just his promotional publication. You know, and I remember one year she called me in New York. She said, Gerard, Mr. Brown's going to be at the VH1 Fashion Awards. Go cover him. I said, okay. So I would go and she said, oh, say thank you. I said, oh, thank you. What am I saying? He thinks he gave you $1,000. I said, oh wow.
All out jumping jacks. You niggas want to work out? You muscles, you big muscle motherfucker. You.
Her and I laughed. I said, oh, really? I said, okay, Bonnie, I'll thank him. Of course, when I said, thank you, Mr. Brown. Like this. It wasn't so much that I didn't get the $1,000. It was a matter of feeling that he knew and appreciated my work with him the way he felt like paying me, which was terrific. So anyway, so I know one year there was Bonnie was at a venue, and she used to call me almost every morning, and we used to talk. And she had called me into and told me that she was at an event last night. I said, wow. She said they were honoring her. I said, okay, cool. And so she said that she got dressed up. Now, Bonnie was sick at this time. She had a number of ailments, and walking had become difficult as well as seeing. So she was walking down to the elevator, and she saw someone, and she started talking to them. And she was talking and talking, waiting for the elevator. But this person wasn't responding. And then she looked closely and pulled her hair back. And she said, Gerard, I was talking to myself in the mirror. And her and I just bust out laughing. It was so sad. It was so sad deep inside, because how could she not have an escort from her room down to the venue? But she was laughing, and I was laughing about that she had been talking to herself. But there are a number of Janae used to babysit my daughters, and we just had a terrific time during that time. So anyway, that's why I think she should be in the history books as someone who really opened the doors and what she's done for the Black community, especially in music, was her pre-Grammy party. I remember there's so many stories flashing before me, even in the hip hop community, that my not knowing who they are, like Jim Jones from the Dipset, AZ, even LL Cool J, not fully knowing who he was. But one thing I'll tell you, and then I'm going to go on to something else because I don't want to make this too long. Because of my affiliating with the Godfather Soul, Mr. James Brown, Reverend Al Sharpton and I had a kindred spirit. Mr. Brown, I look at Mr. Brown as a planet, and there are 3 rings around him. The first ring around him is his inner circle, the ones closest to him. His second ring around him included people like me. And the third ring around him included you. He had a manager called Charles Bobbitt, Mr. Bobbitt. And no matter where Mr. Brown was performing, I don't care if it was in Timbuktu, if he was performing and I knew someone there and they wanted to see Mr. Brown, I would call Mr. Bobbitt, say, Mr. Bobbitt, can you please put so-and-so's name on the guest list? I wanted him to see Mr. Brown, and he would say, Gerard, are they going to come? I said, yeah, yeah. He said, Gerard, are they going to come? I said, sure. So like that, because you had to convince me that you were going to come before I called Mr. Bobbitt and have him put your name on the list. Because one thing that Mr. Bobbitt didn't like was no-shows. So, but I was able to do that. So Mr. Bobbitt was my was my link into the inner circle. He was my handler. Mr. Bobbitt was my handler. He made sure that I got to where I needed to be. Had press credentials or access to where I had to go. So Mr. Bobbitt was the main. In that documentary I was speaking about, you will see him, on there a lot. So that was the thing. Oh, I know I was telling you. So anyway, Michael Jackson, who had a problem with Sony, with Tony Matella, or Tony Ayala, whatever his name is. He had a problem with Sony Records because Sony Records, he felt, was not doing all they could to promote his project that he was working on at that time he was releasing, or put the muscle behind it, like he was known for muscle to be there whenever he put out a project. And he felt one of the reasons being why Tony Matella or Sony did not put their muscle behind the music or his latest project was because they wanted it to fail. They gave him advance money and they wanted it to fail because the Beatles catalog was at stake, because that was the security, or that was the collateral to ensure for Michael's project, that he would have been able to pay whatever he had to pay when the time came to pay with the amount he had to pay. So anyway, but because the muscle wasn't there, the project didn't do well, and Michael started complaining about the unfairness in music. What they're doing to him. So he went to Reverend Al Sharpton, and Reverend Al Sharpton decided to have a music summit. So we had a music summit with Michael and a few other people on the Padea, who was there, and so because I had the credentials, or I was connected with Rev, that whenever I walked into his office, I was able to go right around the receptionist desk, open up his inner office, and go in there and sit, or go in there and take pictures of whoever it was who was there. He called me a couple of times to his office downtown Manhattan, and this is during the Obama administration, and I would call me to take pictures. I would take pictures of I don't remember their names, but the Obama administration, who was going to be, or who was on his National Action Network, House of Justice, his Saturday morning rally came to pitch when it was going to pitch, but later it was at his office. I would come down and take pictures. And this one time he called me to come down, Rachel Norslinger, who was his PR person, and Tamika Mowry was his personal assistant. So anyway, I got a call, said, Gerard, Red wants you downtown. So I said, okay. So I go downtown, and I walk in there, and it's Jesse Jackson. I said, oh my God. Now, this is the first time the two of them been together since the start of the Obama campaign, because, Jackson had made that statement, we're going to cut Obama's balls off like this. And it soured the relationship between him and Reverend Al. So they had been at odds ever since that moment. So this is like the first time them getting together, and I'm in there taking pictures. And I'm telling you, for two reverends, I never heard so many motherflockers and so much. They were talking like brothers on the corner. You know what I'm saying? Like this and whatever. And I'm documenting. I took all these pictures. And I wish I had a recorder. That's what I wish I had a recorder on. But anyway, so I took all these pictures, and I was happy to have been a part of that. So anyway, so Rev has this music summit. So I'm in the inner office, and Michael Jackson's in there. So, I started taking pictures. Johnny Cochran, who was in there, who also spoke. And I can't remember his name. I'm bad with names. Uh, I see his face. I can't. Anyway, he was in there. And um, Dougie Fresh was in there, but I didn't know that was Dougie Fresh. I didn't know who Dougie Fresh was. You know, though you got a smile so bright. Do you could have been the candle. Well, you could have been anything that you want me to, but I could tell the way you do the things you do. I was in the Motown, I was in and when hip hop came on, I'll see if I tell you that story. But anyway, so what happened was that Michael Jackson was in there and Dougie Fresh was in there. And I saw this guy sitting on a couch in the back. And he's just sitting there. So I maneuved my way and said, excuse me, are you anybody? I don't know why I would say that. He says, no, I'm not nobody. He said, I'm not nobody. I said, okay. I said, I'm going to take a picture of you anyway. He says, okay. So I took a picture of him. So now the program is taking place. And they introduce, this next speaker is going to come up and say a few words. His name is Russell Simmons. And then I still didn't know who Russell Simmons was. I took a picture of him. It wasn't later till afterwards that I realized that Russell Simmons was huge. I mean, Russell Simmons was the man. Russell Simmons was the shit, And but I didn't know who he was. Just a guy who said he was nobody, and I believed him. So anyway, I took the pictures of Michael Jackson, and there a lot of you seen the picture. Maybe I posted it on here or whatever. That was another incident where to Fume, his name was Fume. And you might know some of you who Fume was a musician also. I think he played with Miles Davis, but he's also became an activist. Fume. I know his last name or first name was Fume. So anyway, so that was another incident where I didn't know who was in the room. So anyway, that was like that. So I think the point that I'm making that I've done a lot of things in my life. I've seen a lot of things in my life. Let me tell you about hip hop real quick since I'm talking about music. I didn't know. I missed that whole hip hop revolution. Totally. I was moving too fast. I was a pharmacist, and I was into, a lot of the Motown sound. So I wasn't really, gravitating to the new, wave of music. So anyway, so what happened was that when I finally came back to New York, I used to spend most of my time in the basement because that's where I did most of my moving too fast. And at this time, there was a song that came out, and the song that came out was "You're All I Need." That was the first one with Mary J. Blige and what's his name? I can't remember his name. I see his face. I gotta love Jones for your body and you're all I need. Where they sampled, a Motown song, and that's what made me listen to the music because the one thing that gravitated me to what little hip hop I did heard was the sampling that they were doing. And so, I'm in my basement and I'm laying on a couch and my thing was taking apart Walkman when I was moving too fast. That was one thing I enjoyed doing was taking these Walkman apart. And so I never could put them back together, but it gave me something to do with my hands, you know. So I remember saying, you know, I'm watching. I said, let me put on rap TV and see what this rap music is all about. So I put on there, and you know, I saw Tupac. I saw Tupac do "Dear Mama," you know, and the song moved me. You know, the song moved me, and I was impressed by the song "Dear Mama." So at this time, Tupac had got arrested for rape or got sentenced, and so he was doing time in Rikers Island. And so I made up in my mind that you know that I'm going to buy this brother's album because it'd be like putting money on his books. You know what I'm saying? I want to support him because I like the song "Dear Mama," and it was Me Against the World. So I bought the album Me Against the World, and my God, I was blown away by Outlaw. You know, Temptation. Uh, you know, you think it's easy to settle down, got a woman that'll please me. In every town I don't want her, but I gotta do. A temptation is temptation, and can you get away? There's so much pressure. Ever since I met you was the first impression. I know your man don't understand only does. I can see your state of misery from your introduction. Nobody's touching the fucking just honest discussion. Maybe we can see find a better way, find a better way. Late night phone conversations, would that be okay? I don't want to take up all your time, be the next in line. Tell me what size, let me buy you things that you don't buy. I can see you're cautious and I'm careful not to scare you. Anticipation, love making got me shaking when I'm standing there. It's expectations, but just as the man in the mirror. That song moved me. That song moved me. Can you get away? Because that was a lifestyle I was leading. I was leading a lifestyle of, you know, I would meet street entertainers, whatever like this, and I had a different a different CeeLo than everybody else. You know, I would pull up and say, "Hey, can you get away? You know, come on, let's go." And we would go to the beach. I would take them to the beach. I'd take them somewhere at the open, relax, picnic, and we moved too fast. See, moving too fast didn't mean that you had to be killing yourself. Well, anyway, I don't want to start glamorizing that. But that song moved me. So that's when I started. Uh, I, I, when Tupac used profanity, to me, it did not seem the same as when they do it today. Today, you know, profanity is like a shock value. It's all, triggers and peaches and all that stuff like that. You know, just for the song. But but that's you know that's why I say the only rapper who I really like is Tupac. Now I realize that Jay-Z and LL Cool J, they found the formula. The formula for them was rapping to girls, and a lot of this stuff was directed to women, Tupac too as well, but that seemed to be, a trend that was needed to be successful. You can't be just rah rah. I managed this rapper. His name's Absolute, and I read this book on artist management, and this book was about you know dealing with artists, of course. And it says if your artist doesn't do what you ask him to do, drop him. So anyway, so I'm managing him. He's got some good music. Nice smooth sound. Oh man, just melt your heart. And he had hard stuff too as well. So we went to this battle one time in Riverhead, and he was number 5, and the other 4 rappers before him, suck my like this, and it was all hard. So when Absolute time came, I said, Absolute, come here. I said, you notice what the other four rappers did, they all sung hard. I want you to go out there and I want you to sing or do whatever song we had at the time. I want you to do that one because I want you to rap to the girls. I says, the girls is going to buy your records. You know, the girls are the ones going to listen to your music. Guys are going to bootleg it or whatever, but rap to the girls. And he said, okay. And he went there, oh, you can't fuck with me. Never could, never could. I said, oh. I threw my hands up and said, that's it. No more rap artists. I just kidding. He laid up being arrested for a statutory rape or something like this in Florida. Just couldn't stay away from the young girls. So anyway, you know, in fact, at one point in time, I thought it would be impossible to start a class action suit against hip hop. Not so much against the hip hop, but you know, I got a CD from Snoop Dogg's Dog Pound. The first song that you heard on the CD, it was like a 2-year-old saying shit, shit, shit. And the second voice you heard was a child saying something else, you know, and they looped it. And I was disgusted. I was disgusted that how can they have a project that has explicit material, must be 18 years or older, to buy it, but yet still you have children on it. So I don't blame the rappers because the record label gives them all this money and say, here, go make an album. And so they get a studio time and they invite their mama, their baby's mama's mama, and all them in the studio and the family and they're laying out tracks and one of the little kids might say something and a mic is thrust in their face and then they mix it in there. But you see, with that project, it goes to the label. The label should monitor what's on there because after all, it's giving the label of explicit material, must be 18 years or older, to listen to it. But then it's given to the distributors and the distributors distribute it worldwide. So it's not the artist's fault. I think it's the label and the distributor's fault. Because after all, you will not watch a porn movie if in the beginning there are kids in the front room playing jacks and then the camera pans into the bedroom and then now you get your freaky deaky video on. So it's the same principle. So I tried to get Reverend Al Sharpton. I tried to get Congressman Lou or something. I tried to get some heavy hitters behind me to let's start this class action lawsuit and sue the label for distributing, you know, this material with children on it. Because 100 years from now, they're going to say, well, we can't believe they had their children on this, but nothing became of that. Now, I remember one time when, now I've interviewed Raphael Sadiq several times. If you don't know who Raphael Sadiq is, Raphael Sadiq is Tony. And Pearl something. Anyway, Raphael Sadiq. And I got a chance to interview him a second time where he was headlining at a big hip hop conference in Central Park. It was Hip Hop Appreciation Day or whatever it was, but I was asked if to go cover him. And so I went to interview him again. And while I'm interviewing him, you know, I decided to come in front of the stage and watch some of the acts. And one of the acts that were there was Houdini. So Houdini comes out and starts performing, and this big brother is right there next to me. I said, "Hey, excuse me." I said, "Which one's Houdini?" He said, "Which one's Houdini? Which one's Houdini?" He says, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And I said, "Oh." Houdini was the name of the group. There was no one person named Houdini, but I didn't know because I didn't know hip hop. That was my stint with rap music. So at that time, of course, I interviewed Tony Ayo. I interviewed Young Buck. I interviewed Lloyd Banks, G Unit. I was with them, and and a story real quick. I got a call from Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers asked me if I want to interview Young Buck and Lloyd Banks. And Young Buck and Lloyd Banks, who in the hell are they? So at that time, I had an assistant, and so I asked her. I said, "I just got a call from Warner Brothers, and they want me to interview Young Buck and Lloyd Banks." Said, "I don't know who they are." She said, "Gerard, you don't know who Young Bank and Lloyd and Young Buck is?" I said, "No." She said, "Oh, that's G Unit." I said, okay. So I called her back and said, "Yes, I'd like to view G Unit. Yes, of course, of course." So anyway, what happened was that on the time of the event, uh, uh, when I went to Warner Brothers, I took a couple of guys with me because this one producer, whenever I would go on high profile interviews, he would pay me to come along. So I said, "Okay, cool." Got a little extra cheddar in my pocket. So I told him, "Okay, look, when Young Buck comes in, I'm going to interview him. I'm going to take some pictures of him. And then when I finish, then you guys can talk to him or whatever." And the same thing with Lloyd Banks. And there was a guy sitting in a chair behind me. And my back was. I said, "Oh, excuse me, brother. I don't mean to put my back to you. How you doing? My name is Gerard." He said, "I'm Young Buck." I said, "Do." I didn't know that was him sitting next to me. And the funny thing about interviewing Lloyd Banks said, he says, "Yeah, I get mixtapes from people." He says, "If I like it, I'm stealing it." I said, "Wow." He was very honest. And one of the guys who I've been gave him his mixtape, and he claimed that the Young Buck, Lloyd Banks, had stole his music and like this. And I said, "Well, he told you that's what he do, But anyway, so anyway, I'm telling you all this because just as a smoke screen, till I really want to talk to you about. I am so moved. I am so at odds with myself. I'm having an internal struggle here in the Philippines because I don't know how to handle it. I don't. And there's no other way to tell you this other than just coming out and telling you. Me as kids are calling me daddy. And I am so struck by it that I don't know how to handle it. You know, I always call them goony ghouls. Give me a goony ghoul. But now their relationship with me has taken on, I guess in their mind, once me and I got married. And I know it's no discussion that she had with them because, they don't, you know, it's something that the oldest has taken upon himself to call me. although me and I are working on our own child, having her children call me daddy is strange. It's weird. You know, it's very moving, very touching. I told you once that the oldest was in school and they would ask him what's your mother's name and ask what's your father's name. He said Gerard. Now I was like, okay, but okay, that's cool, you know, like that. But you know, there's something going on with him that where's that? You know, it's just moving me. It's just touching me. My having my daughters and even my oldest daughter, she calls me Gerard or bio dad. My youngest daughter calls me dad. But not having the total opportunity to be in their lives and still be in their lives, that I have an opportunity now to be in a child's life. That's why when I came here, I made a decision that if a woman does have a child, she can have up to two, and the oldest cannot be older than 10 years old. Because those are the impression years, the informative years. Those are years that whereas them becoming, you know, rebellious or hostile or you know, has not take hold of him. And let me tell you, children sometimes be like animals. All they want to do is please you, and that's the feeling I get with them. You know that they just want to please me. So I know before they go to school, I ask them, "What's your plan?" To learn as much as I can, as fast as I can, and pay attention and don't forget. And because when I used to come home from school, I spend time with each one of them when they come home from school. And I used to ask, well, what did you learn in school? And they said, I forget. And I said, no, that's not an acceptable answer. You spent all day in school and you don't know what you learned, you know. And so now it becomes almost like a sit down where we go through each subject. They show me their homework. They show me, how many got right, how many got wrong. The youngest one, he got 1 out of 5 right, you know. And the next test, he got 0 out of 6, wrong. And he was crying. And then, he didn't want to come talk. I said, come here. And I sat him down and I told him that, it's okay. It's okay. You had a lot of time off from school. What else I tell him? I said, this is where you grow from. Make this the only time you have a test result with 100% wrong. I said, we're gonna give you extra, tutoring. We're gonna make sure we're gonna do our best to bring you up to the level you're supposed to be at, but it's okay. You shouldn't be ashamed of you not knowing, you know. I said, the secret is to know, to learn, and to want to learn, And I always speak to them about college, because I want to get it in their heads that you're going to college, Adopting is something I've thought, but and it might be too soon. I still have to, but it's something I think about, because I want them to have full advantage of all the opportunities that I am able to provide for them when I'm living or when I'm gone. You know, like my own children. You know, they were able to go to school to the age of 21, and the government paid for it. As long as they stayed in school, and they got support from the government to the age of 18. You know, and I want them to have that opportunity, to be able to have those benefits, to be able to have those options, to be able uh, to develop into whatever it is that they want to be in life, you know. But the one uh, uh, sad thing about it is that, you know, trying to, I guess, expose them, or any child, not just them, any child today, when you're competing with the phone, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is, trying to expose them to a career, or expose them into a hobby, or expose them to possible interests that they could be interested in, it's just non-existent. And it's you know I have to be able to just accept them on their terms. You know, I am extremely, you know, supportive of them, and I let them know it. And I think that's something that any parent should want to do, and that's let them know that you support them and love them. So that's where I am right now. I'm in that space, and it's cool. It's cool. They just started calling me dad probably about a week ago. Good night, daddy. Oh my God. Good morning, daddy. Oh my God. It still has that sound like nails on a chalkboard, but I know, that too shall pass. As the more I accept it, and more I give them hugs in the morning, and something most Filipino children love more than anything else is the personal touch, the human touch. Uh, it's so important for children to be held, to be hugged, to be held. At what age? It doesn't matter, but it's uh it's a good thing. Okay, so you're watching Gerard Black in the Philippines with the truth. I want to thank all you who have watched my videos, who have supported my videos, who enjoy my long videos. Even if you take it in doses, of course, don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, share and like, and remember, dreams are nothing more than plans of any action. Never disrespect the elderly and always pull someone up. And sometimes you're the only one to see your vision. And the best revenge in life is to live good. I'm living good today. I hope you are too. And if you're lucky enough to have a woman like Ali Woodson, former lead singer of Temptation One song, treat her like a lady. Here's a picture of Ali Woodson and Bonnie, where he sung her to tears at a Grammy party. Okay. And ladies, if you're lucky enough to have a good man like me, make him feel like a king. And remember, I always love you more. I'm glad I broke that coffee cup. I didn't like it. I'll talk to you later. Peace.